Hi everybody, welcome back. I'm Snizzy Poo, and today I want to talk about the gun control debate that's going on in this country right now. Obviously, after the shooting that happened in Las Vegas, it's a terrible thing, but we are dealing with, in the aftermath, a lot of emotions. A lot of talking points are being thrown out based on those emotions. Now, being an ANCAP, I am very much in favor of gun ownership and the right to bear arms. I think protecting yourself is it's a natural right that we all have. I believe that fight for survival is embedded into our DNA. It's part of our humanity. And I don't think that we should deny others the right to defend themselves. And I do believe that includes using guns to defend yourself. And, I don't think that my position is really a hard one to take, to be honest. I believe that the evidence that's out there is that is the most rational opinion to have, and most Americans actually agree. But to the left, it is completely irrational. They do want to take your guns. That is the point of the debate on their side. They want to take the guns. That's what they want. So let's listen in to Jimmy Kimmel.
The guy was an accountant. He had no criminal record. His brother, who lives in Florida, seems totally shocked, genuinely dumbfounded. He said he saw no sign of any of this. The owner of the store that sold the killer some of the rifles said he passed the government-mandated background check when he was in the store. He wasn't on any watch list. Didn't seem to have been a religious or political extremist. Came out of nowhere. And because of that, because there weren't any of the usual signs, I've been reading comments from people say this is terrible, but there's nothing we can do about it. But I disagree with that intensely, because of course there's something we can do about it. There are a lot of things we can do about it. But we don't, which is interesting, because when someone with a beard attacks us, we tap phones, we invoke travel bans, we build walls, we take every possible precaution to make sure it doesn't happen again. But when an American buys a gun and kills other Americans, then there's nothing we can do about that.
I don't get it, Jimmy. Is this what you're saying that you want the federal government to do to U.S. citizens? Is this what you're asking for? You want the government to tap more of our phones? You want travel bans like what? Like state to state, we got to show our papers? You want to build a wall around what, California? Please, God, please. Seriously, is that your intention here? This is how we're going to fix the problem, is we're going to take away more of your rights? You don't even like any of those things. Name one of those programs that you actually agree with. And what, you want to do more of that? Taking away the rights of, American citizens? It's wrong to do it to non-Americans while they're here on American soil, but it is okay to do it to American citizens? I think you need to get on point, Jimmy. And maybe wait for the dust to settle and your emotions to calm down before you start speaking, because you're being contradictory.
And Second Amendment, I guess, our forefathers wanted us to have AK-47s, is the argument, I assume. Orlando, Newtown, Aurora, San Bernardino, every one of these shootings, the murder used automatic or semi-automatic rifles, which are not weapons you use for self-defense.
Yeah, here's the old musket argument. Yeah, I understand that we have better weapons than they had when they drafted the Constitution. We also have better forms of communication. I mean, should the First Amendment only protect forms of communication that they had back in the 1700s? Of course not. When our forefathers drafted the Constitution, they put some thought into it. The idea wasn't that the government gave you your rights. The idea was that these rights were inalienable, that they belonged to you inherently because you were human, and that the government should uphold these rights, or the government should protect them, not give them to you. And you can tell from his style of argumentation that he doesn't believe that. He believes that the rights were given to us by our government. I mean, it's baked into the cake. It's presupposed in his mindset. So my question then is, what did we have before the Constitution? Is it that before 1776 we just all lay down and allowed people to kill us when they meant to? Of course not. We've always protected ourselves. I mean, really, there's two things going on here. One, as living creatures, we're going to naturally try to defend ourselves. And two, as human beings, we're going to use tools to do that, as we use tools to do anything else. So, I'm sorry, Jim, we're not going back to muskets. Just isn't going to happen. Another interesting point that's been brought up by others is that Jimmy Kimmel uses private security, and they use guns. So, to Jimmy, who can afford private security, it's just perfectly fine for that to be utilized for him to be safe. But for the rest of us plebs who can't afford it, no. No, we can't protect ourselves with guns. Only Jimmy can protect himself with guns. What hubris.
The entire country is still in shock over this massacre in Las Vegas. 59 people are dead, over 500 injured. I mean, someone posed the question, but what did you think when you first heard this? Was your thought, why does this keep happening?
I cried when I first heard about it. I woke up to it like many people. And I have been emotional because of what's going on in Puerto Rico and what's going on with my family. But I cried because I think that after Sandy Hook, our nation made the decision that it is bearable to lose 20 babies, 26-year-olds. And if we didn't have any change then, I don't know that I will see change in my lifetime.
You see, what's happening here is they're being emotional, admittedly, and asking the rest of us to also use our emotions when thinking about this problem. I think it's important to note that this argument is being wrapped in anti-gun legislation, that nothing will be done, as she puts it. Well, we could do other things than take away people's rights to own firearms. She brings up Sandy Hook, okay. How about we have better security in our schools? Why can't we have that? I also think it would be in the interest of the consumer that these hotels in Vegas had better security. And why isn't the argument ever in that direction? It's never in that direction. It's always in the direction of anti-gun legislation. The narrative that they're trying to push would be that as we increase gun control legislation, the rate of death homicides in this country would go down. But that's actually not the case. If you look at it, as gun ownership has increased, the amount of homicides in which guns were used has decreased. Now, I've heard people make the argument that these two things are correlated. I don't necessarily think that they are correlated, but that doesn't change the fact that this is what we're seeing. Gun violence has been going down steadily since 1994. And none of these laws that any of these lefties want to pass would really attack the root problem, which I don't think is gun ownership. There is no correlation there. If you look at the worst school massacre in U.S. history, it was perpetrated by bombs, not guns. So, if people want to go around killing others, they're going to find a way to do it.
But, just to go back to what you said, our country did not make the decision. A handful of people in Congress made the decision.
But we voted for them again.
Well,
but the NRA paid for them.
Yeah, we hear this time and time again, that if it weren't for the NRA, we would be passing comprehensive gun control legislation. And the problem, you see, is that the NRA spends so much money and has all this lobbying power and buys off congressmen. But that's not the case at all. The NRA doesn't spend very much money. Their lobbying power actually comes from the fact that it has 5 million members. And those members are very politically active. You have 5 million members and most of them vote. And so, yeah, that's going to get the attention of any congressman. It's not a conspiracy, ladies. It's just that gun control isn't as popular as you think it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's not the country. 89% of Republicans and 89% of Democrats are for preventing the mentally ill from purchasing guns. And yet in February, Trump signed a bill that would allow some mentally ill people to purchase a gun.
Bullshit. This was a repeal of Obama's Social Security gun ban. A ban that was actually not directed towards people with severe mental illness, but towards recipients of disability benefits who required help with finances. Not exactly a great way of testing mental illness, I'd say.
Bill O'Reilly said it yesterday. You know, this is the price of our freedom. I say no, this is not the price of our freedom. This is what the Constitution is supposed to protect us against.
What the fuck? What did she just say? The Constitution is supposed to protect us against mass shootings? The entire panel of The View is just a great case against women's suffrage.
Can't go out and buy a 50 caliber machine gun. So what category of weapons should not be in the public marketplace? So we ought to start from a premise that these weapons, which are weapons of war, right, fully automatic weapons.
I think we got to start from the premise that our forefathers started with when they added the Second Amendment to the Constitution. And that is that governments are inherently tyrannical, and that it was necessary, and still is necessary, for American citizens to be able to protect themselves from said government. I find it highly ironic that these folks on the left here say that Trump is literally Hitler, and at the same time want to take away our ability to fight the Trump Hitler. It makes no sense. If Trump is so dangerous, then why would you want to take away the only fighting chance that we would have to suppress his genocide? Now, I don't think that Trump is Hitler, but you don't know when a new Hitler will actually come about. You don't know when that's going to happen. And I tell you what, if it did happen, it would happen after they took the AR-15s and AK-47s away from us.
We shouldn't have these kind of weapons. I would agree with Steve 100%. But the reality is, I think we're making some progress here. And if Paul Ryan is true to what he said, he's going to bring this bill to the floor. You're going to have Democrat and Republican alike supporting this. I think the NRA did this.
But we're talking about the thing that allowed him to shoot the semi-automatic that goes to your shoulder.
Allowed it to make it an illegal weapon.
Oh, for crying out loud, these people have no idea what they're talking about. So let's end this video with a demonstration for these morons.
Bump fire this. Let's try a little hip bump fire first. Oh yeah, that's 10 rounds. Goes really fast when you bump fire.